Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me this evening in this live webinar on overcoming being underweight. That means we're going to talk about the causes of being underweight and the treatment for gaining weight. So make sure you're in the right place. If you think this was going to be a weight loss webinar, you're in the wrong place. I know a few people in the beginning discovered that they're in the wrong webinar here, and I have many webinars on weight loss, and I encourage you to watch those. But I wanted to make this particular webinar on being underweight because it's a much more serious and prevalent health problem than most people understand. Many people, particularly women, have a belief that being underweight is healthy. And this, of course, is due to our social pressure and conditioning of the society, because all through time people looked at both men and women's physique as being healthy when they were muscular and large in size and full-bodied, we could say. And a thin man or a thin woman with only ribs, with ribs protruding and a very small abdominal area and narrow and bony would be considered sickly and unattractive, even as recently as 100 years ago. So it's only in recent times have we started to create this concept that being ultra thin, particularly as a woman, is a sign of good health. And unfortunately, there's many negative consequences of being underweight, and we're going to cover those. But what are the signs of being underweight? Many people don't even know that they're underweight. They tend to just have a belief that they must avoid putting on weight, and they're so focused on avoiding gaining weight that in fact they've starved themselves, depleted themselves by skipping meals, not eating sufficient nutrients, even not sufficient protein, not sufficient fat in many cases, and even not sufficient carbohydrates, thus depleting the tissue in the body. In the blood could be like anemia and mineral deficiencies. The skin and it could be dried and depleted. The liver could be also depleted. The bones can be depleted. Hair can start to fall out, and even the muscles can start to cramp and be receding due to this state of depletion. However, you may still look good in an Instagram photo, and I'm sure look good in selfies, but this is not health. Health means that we have a strong constitution that doesn't have illness easily and doesn't get infection easily, has a good appetite, good elimination without symptoms of poor digestion such as gas, bloating, or acidity, and has constant energy all day long and sleeps very well at night. So those would be the real signs of health. And unfortunately, when people are underweight, we have not just depletion of the bones, but we have depletion even of the reproductive system. Many young women who are very thin are and focusing on staying thin and trying to avoid weight gain by eating light, skipping meals, having salads, living off the smoothies, and juicing a lot, often have their menstrual cycle stop. So even the reproductive system can stop working, and even for a man can become infertile and have a low sperm count due to excess detoxification, cleansing, and lack of nutrients, all in the effort and hopes of staying thin and not putting on any weight. So what are the signs? Generally, if we look at a person's hand, we can grab the thickness of the skin there. There should be some thickness of the skin. If the hand is paper thin, very thin, then, like just a few sheets of paper thin, then we know there's not enough fat on the body. If the bones are protruding in the back of the hand or on the ribs, if you can see them, or anywhere where you see a lot of bones protruding, the cheekbones protruding, the eyes sunken in, these are signs of depletion. And often other symptoms that can either be aggravated or even develop by being underweight are anxiety, and then ultimately insomnia. You have anxiety because the body is nervous. It doesn't have any reserves. It doesn't know where the next food's coming from. It's not completely satisfied after meals, and it's like a car running on empty all the time. The driver feels nervous knowing that there's very little gas in the tank, and it creates a lightness. When you're too light, you don't have enough, physical matter, or kapha, we could say, and earth and water elements to keep you on the ground. So there's a sense of being spacey, lightheaded, dizzy, forgetful, and of course anxious, and having insomnia. And of course the shape of the body can be affected. For women, the breast can be small. Your nails can be brittle and soft and splitting. And there can be other signs, like I mentioned, of infertility, the period stopping, feeling hungry all the time, and basically being weak. So often this person who's depleting themselves to stay thin by skipping meals and not eating sufficiently and suppressing their own appetite, or having little tiny meals all through the day and not having complete meals, feels weak because they are depleted. And then they resort to stimulants, coffee, and other sugar substance. You could have a cup of coffee and a donut for breakfast, and you'd probably have energy till lunch. And maybe you need another coffee at lunch with that extra light salad to get you through the rest of the day. So in a person's mind, they're not eating very much, but in fact, they're starving their body, depleting their tissue, and aggravating many health conditions, particularly those related to the nervous system and the mind. So how do we know if we're underweight, particularly if we have some of those signs? Well, first we should just go back to eating and not restrict ourselves and having 3 meals a day. You should never just try to graze and have little meals through the day, and you should eat when you're hungry. So and never eat when you're not hungry. And it's nice to have the body, or it's healthy to have the body in a healthy cycle where you're hungry for breakfast, you have breakfast, you do your work for 4 or 5 hours without much snacking, and then you're hungry for lunch, and then you go 5-6 hours until dinner time, maybe with just light snacks like fruit, and then you're hungry again at dinner time, and you feel good after the meal, and you have no more cravings later on at the evening or between meals. Even cravings and craving foods shows a sign of starving, hungry body that's craving for more food. So first you should feed yourself 3 times a day, just like you would any animal. You would not starve them or only give them a little bit of food for their meal, thinking you want to keep them thin. So you want your child, your animal, and your own body to be happy and satiated and full and content after meals, and not overly restrict yourself. A lot of people trying to lose weight, avoid eating wheat, and of course if you are very overweight, then avoiding wheat is a good idea. But if you're already underweight, avoiding wheat and particularly dairy will almost make it impossible or very difficult to gain weight. And it's true, a lot of dairy and wheat is weight gaining, but if you're underweight, this is a good medicine for you. Having wheat and rice and sweet potatoes and butter and more cheese and cottage cheese and yogurt drinks, not drinking water, but drinking yogurt. So this is just giving an idea of this type of weight gaining diet, which I'll get into a little bit more. So and that's really the first line of treatment is food, is eating. The best way to get out of it is to eat your way out of it and stop restricting yourself. And then, like I was leading up to, you should allow the body to find its own natural weight. And that goes for everybody. We shouldn't force our body into some desired weight on a scale. Some people are born heavier and have heavier bones and are going to be heavier by weight. And many people, when they start gaining weight, the scale shows they gained 10 pounds, but nobody can see it because they gained it in a muscle mass through exercise or light weights, and greater bone density by having more minerals and more nutritional foods, nutritionally dense foods. So bones and muscle, and also some fat came, but often another person can't even tell that a person has gained 10 pounds if they were underweight. Other signs that you're underweight is people say to you, "Are you too skinny? You need to eat more. Do you eat enough?" Those are signs you could be underweight. And so first we want to focus on eating the 3 meals a day, not snacking a lot and crackers and cookies and chips and not eating at night, because even a thin person or somebody who was born with a thin constitution, like a Vata type Prakriti and Ayurveda, it's thin, light, cold, and dry, they could congest the whole system and ultimately gain a lot of weight. But they would have to eat junk food, overeat, snack a lot, eat at night, have cold pizza at night, and have fast food, and with no disregard to their health or their digestion or their elimination. And that ultimately would have the person, the body would block up and congest, and they would gain weight and could become obese. So a thin person can become obese with really poor eating habits and poor food. But if you're eating good food 3 times a day, and you're by nature a thin person, or Vata Prakriti with a good metabolism and very active, and you've been thin most of your life, then you're probably going to remain that way, and you don't need to really worry about it so much as you think. And just eating 3 meals a day may put on 10, 15 pounds, and at a certain point you're just going to plateau out. In fact, I've told this to hundreds of women that they were underweight, and encouraged them just to eat the rice, the butter, the sweet potato. And when they came back after a month, they often gave me the results that the insomnia got much better, the anxiety just dropped, they're sleeping better, their fingernails feel firmer, their hair stopped falling out, their skin feels more soft, they feel less sensitive to everything, because hypersensitivity is another sign that you're kind of depleted. And so all these symptoms go away often in a very short period of time, 3 weeks, 4 weeks of just eating 3 meals a day and having good digestion and good elimination. And the weight comes up, and the people are often, many of these symptoms go away, and their only concern then is they believe that the weight will keep going up. And often the particularly young women say, "What, the weight came up, I gained 15 pounds so fast in just a month. I'm afraid I'll keep going." And I have to assure them, no, you won't really keep going. The reason you gain the weight so quickly is because you started off underweight, so the body wanted to get this 15 pounds back on quickly. But after it has the weight that it likes, then you should be fairly stable. Weight can go up a little bit in the fall and winter, come down in spring, and be a little lower during the summertime due to the weather and our tendency to eat more in the winter and eat less in the summer, and be more physically active as well. So our weight can naturally fluctuate throughout the year depending on the weather and our physical activity and other factors. So first, so if you are underweight, let's take it seriously, and let's try to eat right for your body type. And if you're a thin, cold, and dry person, then you can just Google the Vata diet, which is a Vata pacifying diet, which should build more muscle, fat, and put some weight and shape back on you. And I have many YouTube videos about the Vata diet. So, but overall, the Vata diet is mostly cooked food, mostly root vegetables, not leafy greens and salads, mostly wheat and rice, not gluten-free and buckwheat and amaranth. It's the weight-gaining ones, and there's plenty of yogurt drinks instead of water. I mean, you can't gain weight eating water, so you can make a yogurt drink with 1/2 cup yogurt with a cup of water with 5 or 6 almonds, preferably soaked and blanched, where you take the skin off. Put it all in a blender with 3 or 4 dates, no pit. Blend it up so it's kind of a yogurt date almond shake, kind of like a lassi. And you drink that in the afternoon, or even lassies or buttermilk with a little cumin. And this is really good for gaining weight. And you want to keep the bowels moving. You want to keep the appetite strong. Drinking ginger tea in the day, ginger cumin tea, will help keep the appetite strong. Taking some colon herbs like haritaki, or something, triphala mixed with a little senna and ginger, at night to keep the bowels moving. Not so much using magnesium, as this just relaxes the bowels, doesn't have the real good cleansing benefits as herbal laxatives. So it's good to take if you're even slightly constipated, like only going one time a day. That's slightly constipated. So you want to be definitely taking some herbal colon formula to keep the bowels moving. So you're going 2 or 3 times a day. This will keep the appetite stronger so you can eat more, which is the main goal. But you can't snack all during the day. You could eat every 3 hours, and you could, some people who are very underweight, I actually encourage them to eat every 4 hours, 3 or 4 hours, like breakfast, lunch, kind of afternoon, and then dinner again, so they get 4 meals. Of course, if you're a kapha, heavy, overweight person who really needs to lose weight, then you only get 2 meals a day. And if you're balanced, then we could do 3 meals a day. But if you're really underweight and you want to put the weight back on, which I advise anybody who's underweight, then 4 meals a day is good. And snacks like bananas, dates, sweet snacks are really the best. And then that yogurt drink, and eating plenty of rice. You can still do brown rice, but wheat is even more building and more strengthening than even rice. And of course, cooked foods, you can consume so much more in cooked foods than raw. Raw is very cleansing and detoxing, and a lot of times people who are underweight here, particularly in California, have a kind of an obsession with detoxing. So that's part of the reason they're underweight, is because they're detoxing continuously and losing weight. And they're doing that a lot of times by having like raw cabbage and celery juice fast and too much raw vegetables. I mean, how many carrots can you really eat raw? So you want to eat and put on some weight, you better just cook all 20 carrots up and puree it with a little black pepper and ginger, and you can just drink it down, 20 carrots. So you can eat much more if it's all cooked and soft and warm with nice spices on it. And so this is, and using plenty of the sweet taste and salty taste works the best. Bitter taste like arugula, is too cleansing, and sweet taste is more building. And of course, some meat, some dark chicken meat, oily fish, salmon, halibut. These are very good for building and strengthening. Anybody who's really underweight, I don't often advise them to be vegetarian, particularly if they're young and a menstruating woman who may be anemic as well. I generally encourage some ground beef during menstruation to replenish the iron. I mean, there's other options, but it's an easy one. And salmon and fish and dark chicken meat with wheat or rice and these cooked vegetables, and not doing salads. And soups are fine as well, too, particularly. And eating sweet potatoes, very good. This is very building vegetable, sweet potato. And we also have a lot of herbs, too. There's a lot of herbs that are building. In Ayurveda, one of the most popular ones is just ashwagandha. Now, a lot of people are having ashwagandha. It's a weight-gaining and building formula. See, it's the opposite of detoxification. That's the point. Instead of detoxing the body, you're building and strengthening the body. And ashwagandha is the first ingredient on there. And a lot of times people who are overweight are taking ashwagandha, and I let them know it's not a weight loss herb. This is a building herb, and it's good for underweight people. The next herb in this formula is Vidarikand, and Vidarikand is like a potato itself. I think it's somewhat related to like maca. And then there's shatavari, licorice, cumin, and ginger. And the cumin and ginger is just to help you digest these other herbs that are heavy, like ashwagandha and Vidarikand and shatavari and even licorice. So they're so heavy and building and strengthening that you need a little ginger and cumin just to digest that and take it after meals. And we also have like a bone formula too for strengthening the bones. And this is using processed coral calcium, and also a herb called hajud, which there it is. We call it Prabhupishti, and there's that, and Bala is in there. Arjuna is for the circulation. Dashamula, which means 10 roots. And there's moringa, which is a popular herb that people started taking without really understanding it, but it is a nutritional herb. It's a heating herb, so you don't want to take it if you have a lot of acidity and heartburn. But there's only a little in the formula, and we're just using it kind of for its nutritional, bone-building aspects. And then the coral, processed coral, is the high in vitamin C and magnesium. And dashamulas from 10 roots is all high in minerals as well. And bala, there's an herb called bala in there, and I think it was in the weight gaining formula too. Bala means strength in Sanskrit, and this is also a very strengthening and building herb. In fact, here's an oil you can massage on your body. We often give it strengthening oil, and their first ingredients is ashwagandha. So it's ashwagandha and bala oil. It's for weak muscles. So, excuse me. So people have weak muscles, or they feel like they can't pick up the trash can, or they're even people who are having trouble walking or on walkers. Then we have somebody massage their thighs and these weak muscles, these limbs in particular, with this oil, strengthening oil, ashwagandha bala oil, warm, and it helps. That we get very good feedback. And most of the herbs, when you're trying to build, are not going to be in a tea. A tea is too light. It's kind of hard to put on weight having a tea, so they're going to be in powder form like these, or often in a ghee form, in butter. This one's called Vitality Ghee, and again we can see it's got ashwagandha there. So, and it helps with stress and fatigue, and very good for somebody who's weak, underweight, a thin child. The ghee's easy to take, slow acting, and building. And then this is basically like a high nutrition diet. So generally I encourage the superfood here. And this is the vata one, so this is for people who are thin. There's wheatgrass, which isn't that building, but it's more building than, say, having a lot of spirulina and chlorella. So spirulina and chlorella aren't very high on the list. Dashamula again, which we saw earlier, this is a formula of 10 roots. And there's ashwagandha, again, beetroot powder, cumin, cinnamon, ginger, kelp, and some licorice for a sweetener. And so that's a kind of high nutritional substance with that wheatgrass, spirulina, chlorella, ashwagandha, and more dashamula. So, having that for breakfast will give you energy and stamina and help you put on more weight. And we also have some that are in liquid form for somebody whose digestion is very poor and couldn't have some of these other herbs because maybe they were too heavy. So this is a rishta, and it's also called strengthening and nourishing, and it's called a bala rishta. So there's the first ingredients is bala for strength. Then there's the ashwagandha, and it's coming with jaggery and a few other herbs to support it. But again, bala and ashwagandha, it's just in liquid form, kind of like a semi-fermented state. So it goes into the body, and it's quite quick acting and easy to take. So a lot of people who are depleted themselves or been pushing themselves for a long time and taking coffee and other stimulants to keep going have what we call adrenal fatigue, and that's why they need the coffee to keep going. So we have like adrenal formulas, and there's the ashwagandha again, Vidari Kand, and bala, 3 ingredients which were in the weight gaining formula, and licorice and brahmi more for the mind and the nerves, and the tulsi, cumin and coriander and ginger again to help digest it. So this is helping a little more with the nerves and not as weight building as the other formula, but and more energizing, but still very supportive. And the tea is even a little more lighter and more stimulating. There's a little elethro in there, which is type of Siberian ginseng, and along with ashwagandha root, chopped and sifted, cinnamon and cardamom, and a little ginger. So that's even lighter because it's in a tea form, and it's got that elethro in it, so it's a little more stimulating, but no caffeine in there, but still giving you a nice boost to get you through the day and keep you off the coffee. So that would be the treatment, both following the diet of eating 3 meals a day of the Vata pacifying diet, which is very tasty, a lot of cheese and butter and wheat and nice warm cooked meals, and snacks like yogurt, drinks, and bananas and dates. So it's a wonderful, tasty diet. Then, complementing with some of these herbal formulas as well, which really should be chosen based on the individual. Then most people will start to gain weight quite quickly and then plateau out at a certain point. And once they've reached that ideal weight, then the herbal formulas can be stopped, and they can just continue eating And you'll find this type of person who's been underweight before in the past can easily become underweight again. I've helped many people, particularly women, gain 15, 20 pounds, feel much better about themselves, and their health is much better, not getting sick each winter, for example, feeling much stronger, not needing coffee to keep going, having more stamina, strength, and then when they do have stress or anxiety, they can quickly lose 10, 15 pounds very fast again. So it's very important for them to keep eating and to keep trying to put that weight back on. So I hope that helped you understand the signs of being underweight. Hoped you understand if you are underweight and the importance of putting some weight back on. And remember, it's a lot easier to put on weight than it is to take it off. So, enjoy eating, and some of these supplements maybe you can find on your own, or contact me if you want help to strengthen your body, strengthen your bones, strengthen your tissue and your muscles, and ultimately put on more weight and have more shape and strength and immunity in your life. Okay? Thank you very much, and now I'll stay and answer any questions.